Wars bring historic change. And the collapse of empire, as Chairman Mao used to say, there can be no construction without destruction. In order to build the new, we must destroy the old.
What is the nature of power which is getting redistributed? Is wealth the only and most significant aspect of power?
De-dollarization. The almighty dollar has been weaponized by the United States. The biggest strength of America is not military power.
Yes.
You think that military might, it's your soft power.
Yes.
Your universities,
Yes.
your science, your technology, the democratization of the global order. It should no longer be controlled by Washington, London, Brussels, or the G7. They still have the Cold War mindset, containment of China, combating Russia, more nuke bases, AUKUS, Quad, Asian NATO. We need more economic connectivity, trade and investment. What China is offering, Belt and Road Initiative, what Putin is saying, Eurasian Initiative. In the propaganda war, the West is winning and leading.
What does this changing world order mean for Pakistan? Can you identify what are the key challenges that state and society of Pakistan is likely to face?
A huge opportunity for Pakistan for regional economic connectivity. The Afghan war has ended after 42 years. So you have peace there. And we were in the eye of the storm since 79. CPEC, an opportunity to make Pakistan the hub of regional connectivity. Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, they're looking up to Pakistan. Landlocked countries want to be land linked through Gawada Port. And the bully on the block, the guy next door, Mr. Modi, the four-letter word, he's been cut down to size by the Indian electorate. The mini Cold War is being lost by India in the South Asian region.
Viewers, very warm welcome to another episode of V News English program Perspectives. Today, we are honored to be joined by one of the leading strategic thinkers of Pakistan, who has always offered an informed, bold, and original perspective on the most significant developments afoot in the world. One of the most interesting debate around the world in academic, policy, and think tank circles is the changing of world order. So today we are joined by Senator Mushahid Hussain Sayyid, who has convincingly and boldly argued his original perspective on the world order, that what it is, how it is changing, and why it is changing. So today we are going to ask Senator Saab, what is a world order and what does this mean? It is all Greek to the common people.
Yes. The world order is the international economic and political system that was established after World War II. The United Nations is part of that. The IMF, the World Bank is part of that. The big powers are part of that, the P5 we call them. And this emerged after the collapse of the British Empire. So, and this was the beginning of what was termed as the American century in 1945 onwards. But now we see the contours, the first signs, the sprinkling of something alternative, something different, a global order that is not centered in the West.
But before you expand on that, I'd like you to briefly explain, is this the first world order that the post-World War world witnessed, or was it sort of a replacement of the British order or the French order or the Spanish order or the Muslim order? What is common and what does it make an arrangement of power to be considered an order?
Let's take the last 100 years. First World War ends in 1918. The Ottoman Empire collapses. See, the wars bring historic change and transformation. And the collapse of empire, as Chairman Mao used to say, there can be no construction without destruction. In order to build the new, we must destroy the old. And this is a law of nature. Empires, civilizations, countries, regimes rise and fall. So what happened? There were two gentlemen, one a Frenchman, Mr. Picot, other gentlemen, Mr. Sykes, a Britisher, foreign ministers of both, they sat down on a table, not like we are sitting, probably in an old chateau or a castle, and they drew up lines of new countries. So you had Palestine emerged, given to British, Lebanon created, given to the French, Syria to the French, Iraq, Jordan to the British, Saudi Arabia also emerged. So lines were drawn, and sometimes the lines are straight lines, if you see.
Yes.
So that was the new colonial order dominated by two European powers. And it continued till Second World War. That order. And then after World War II, the British Empire, on which the sun never set, ostensibly, that started unraveling, weakening. So there was movements in, Quaid-e-Azam led the movement for our freedom, Gandhi led it for India's freedom, Nkrumah in Ghana, Jomo Kenyatta in Kenya. So there were liberation movements. The weakening of the British Empire in World War II led to the unraveling. And then a new order emerged. New order dominated by one basic power. And then two superpowers came, Soviet Union. The Cold War also began. So that was the beginning. And now I've been seeing statements. Xi Jinping of China says, we are witnessing once in a century changes. Monsieur Macron, President of France, says, he told the French ambassadors last year that we are witnessing the end of 300 years of Western hegemony. And I was reading The Economist, and they were saying that the post-World War II, Western-led international economic and political order is coming apart. This is the word they use, is coming apart.
So when you say the order is coming apart or changing or transforming, what is it that is changing? What is the nature of power which is getting redistributed? Is wealth the only and most significant aspect of power? Because while we see the economic rise of China, you also acknowledge that the unequal distribution of hard power continues to rest with the North American and Western European alliance. So there is no decline in the military or the hard power of the West.
No, there is a decline.
Is there?
Yes. By power, we mean economic power, political power, military power, and now also soft power, cultural power. And how do we see the decline? Last 20 years, the Americans have squandered $6.5 trillion after 9/11 in the so-called war on terror, fighting unwinnable wars without end in Fatah in Pakistan, former Fatah, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Libya, Somalia, Yemen. And the end result is that despite that military power, despite that military might, 1 million casualties, deaths, 324,000 drones, missiles, and bombs thrown in 20 years, 30 million people homeless.
So when you basically argue, as Stephen Walt from Harvard University has also argued, that US has wasted its power in the unipolar moment. And I think you make a very compelling argument that you see a squandering of both hard and soft powers. But does that mean that the emergence of China or the resurgence of Russia implies their challenge in the cultural, in the intellectual, in the moral domain as well, not just economic domain?
You see, there are two parallel tracks. And yes, I agree with that. There is the relative decline of Western or US power, their ability to determine events according to their desire or their interests. As President George Bush used to say, the elder Bush, after 1991, what we say goes, no longer. When Saudi Arabia receives Biden he gets a fist bump without the red carpet in July 2022. When Xi Jinping comes to Saudi Arabia, he gets a red carpet and a 31-gun salute and other things. So that shows how they have changed. And also, I date the decline of the American century of Western power 2003. And why do I say 2003? Because the Iraq War, that was the turning point. That was a war of choice. It was an illegal, immoral, unjust war. Because whatever may be the crimes of Saddam Hussein, he was not linked with 9/11 or terrorism.
So you would say that perhaps the current Gaza conflict has accelerated the transformation of the world order in the moral domain?
Morally, it's amazing that this is the most significant development. Al-Aqsa storm, Tufan Al-Aqsa, has reshaped the Middle East. 50 years ago, on 6th of October, 1973, President Sadat, the crossing of the Suez Canal and the storming of the Bar-Lev line, that shook up Israel and the West. And Pakistan, by the way, as you know, participated with the Syrian Air Force. 50 years later, on 7th October 2023, when what the Palestinian revolutionaries did is historic. The myth of Israeli invincibility shattered. The plans for a so-called new Middle East in shambles. And suddenly we see a new kind of awakening that size doesn't equal strength. And military might is not right is might. And I think that gives a lot of inspiration to the Kashmiris that after 8 months, Israel has not been able to suppress Hamas or eliminate its leadership. And they are still fighting, and the fighting has increased. And Israel has lost the war morally, diplomatically, legally, politically, and media-wise. These are not my words. Please see Professor John Mearsheimer. Yeah. He said that in his last podcast.
I think when you, I've noticed you've shown significant interest in engaging and understanding Africa. And I've also noticed that the long history and legacy of Western exploitation has perhaps translated into an opportunity for Russia and China because they don't have a baggage. And you see sort of a desire in the African continent to recover from the Western influence. Is this engagement from China and Russia sustainable? And can they replace the Western influence and dominance in that region?
I'm basically an Asianist with roots in the global South, the new reality. And, you know, I formed the first Pakistan think tank on Africa.
Yes.
Because I feel that Africa has 55 countries, that's the future. And where Pakistan has had a lot of ingress, a very positive impression. We were the first to support the African liberation movements in Eritrea, Algeria, Morocco, and Tunisia in the 50s.
Yes. And so also South Africa.
South Africa and Zimbabwe then later on. Yes. So we have a track record, and plus also Mozambique and Angola. So we have a track record of being with the oppressed. And that somehow that phase, when we talk, because we have been focused now on Afghanistan and India, that we forget that. So we have that very strong connection. Pakistan has played a leadership role and a moral leadership role in speaking up for the voice of the oppressed. And now, China and the Soviet Union had already focused on Africa. You know, in 1955, the Bandung Conference, Asian African Conference. It was held. Pakistan was one of the founders of that. Mr. Muhammad Ali Bogra, Prime Minister, attended that. So, and then the Soviet Union supported the liberation movement, while the West was on the wrong side of history in Africa. They were supporting the apartheid regime. They were supporting the British colonialists also.
So when you talk about transformation of world order, do you witness substantive and timely leadership role being demonstrated by Beijing and Moscow to meet the expectations and to address the grievances and concerns of the global South, which they have had for so long from the West?
It's interesting you ask this question because in the last fortnight, there have been three major, separate but related developments. And I was personally involved in two of them. 19th of June, the BRICS conference in Vladivostok, Russia.
Yes. Yes.
I was the first Pakistani invited there and it gave a keynote speech in my personal capacity, and now we have also applied for membership. Then 28th of June, Beijing, the 70th anniversary of the 5 principles of peaceful
Beijing.
coexistence. President Xi Jinping hosted it, an alternative worldview to the order, existing order. And then on 3rd of July, Astana, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So what are the key takeaways? How do I sum up? I sum it up in 3 Ds. The focus is of this emerging global order, the democratization of the global order. It should no longer be controlled by Washington, London, Brussels, or the G7.
Not so P5 is weakening through CSCO?
P5 is different because P5 also includes China and Russia.
Yes. But democracy means,
yes.
less.
Yes.
I mean,
So, but
more
that means-
equal sharing
Yes.
of influence and power.
Yes. So it's very positive. Multiple power centers.
Yes.
So democratization of international relations. And that's why the UN General Assembly decides morally good decisions like they did on Palestine, while the UN Security Council could not. Secondly, demilitarization of international relations. Because already we are talking of the West and the US. They still have the Cold War mindset, containment of China, combating Russia, more nuke bases, AUKUS, Quad, Asian NATO. We need more economic connectivity, trade and investment. What China is offering, Belt and Road Initiative. What Putin is saying, Eurasian Initiative. And the third D is de-dollarization. The almighty dollar has been weaponized by the United States. It's been the dominant currency. But today, out of 193 members who are members of the United Nations, 68 have announced that they are willing to do trade in non-dollar denominations. Rial, ruble, rupee, RMB, rand. So that is a transfer. We bought our oil from Russia last year, not in the dollars, in RMB. So that is very important. Iran's trade in oil in the local currencies, China's trade with other countries, Saudi Arabia, Iran, UAE, India, all these countries. So this is how the contours, the beginnings. So we see the slow motion unraveling of the old Western-led, dominated economic and political order.
You've been a very prolific and very successful former information minister of Pakistan.
Thank you.
And so let me ask you...
Because I'm a former journalist also.
Yes, yes. And so let me ask you that while the distribution of technological, industrial and economic power is changing, what about the information domain? Because while you see enormous strides being made in China in terms of IT sector, but the content that you and I read and use and hear on the internet is still primarily in English and of Western origin. Do you see some capacity and will in China and Global South to offer alternative perspectives, alternative paradigms to the international issues, which could be more attractive than the traditional dominance enjoyed by the Western academia, think tanks and policy elite?
Not yet. There the West dominates. That's what I told the American ambassador and I were addressing a gathering some time back. The former alumni who had studied in America,
Yes.
like we all did.
Yes, yes,
So, and I said the biggest strength of America is not military power.
yes,
You think that military might, it's your soft power,
yes,
your universities,
yes.
your science, your technology. So there's still that a very lure of American,
American dream.
dream ways.
Yes.
And there's zing in American society, which is the dynamism.
Yes.
So, and also I feel Hollywood
Yes.
and even Bollywood, they are the unofficial ministry of propaganda
Yeah.
of the United States and
But they're
India.
successful.
Yes, because like for example, anything
Yes.
about Pakistan, Bollywood will produce a movie,
Yes.
Sher Khan or something, and
Yes.
Kargil, this and that. And the Americans also, they have a
Yes.
movies. James Bond last movie was on North Korea. So, certainly because it's part of the propaganda machinery also. So there, I think the West is still ahead. The West is still dominant. I tell our friends in the global South, when I go to Beijing or Moscow, they are catching up. They have channels like the CGTN.
Yes.
They have other instruments also. Russia Today, RT is there. There are other channels, and of course Al Jazeera and TRT. But still, I think they say old habits die hard. I think in the propaganda war, the West is winning and leading.
So, lastly, Senator Saab, what does this changing world order mean for Pakistan? Can you identify what are the key challenges that state and society of Pakistan is likely to face, and what are the opportunities?
Let's start with the opportunities, because I always like to see the glass is half full. It's huge opportunities by the grace of God. The Afghan war has ended after 42 years. So you have peace there. And we were in the eye of the storm since 79. I remember when I went to Washington and studying in Georgetown, I read the European history and they talk of a 30-year European war
Yes.
from 1616 to 1648.
It's culminated in the
of
Westphalia
Westphalia.
Treaty.
Yeah, exactly. I said the Europeans were fighting for 30 years.
Yes.
Oh my God. And in my own lifetime, I've seen 42 years. So that is over. Iran-Saudi rapprochement brokered by China. So the Iran-Saudi proxy war in Pakistan is over. CPEC, an opportunity to make Pakistan the hub of regional connectivity. Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, they're looking up to Pakistan. Landlocked countries want to be land-linked through Gawada Port. And the bully on the block, the guy next door, Mr. Modi, the four-letter word, he's been cut down to size by the Indian electorate. That thing of that hubris and that arrogance. The mini Cold War is being lost by India in the South Asian region. In Maldives, there was a campaign by the now ruling party, India out. Nepal has a Maoist government. Sri Lanka has close ties with China, so does Pakistan. So, a huge opportunity for Pakistan for regional economic connectivity. But it should needs, the challenge? We have to have a regional reset with our neighbors, especially with Iran and Afghanistan. And of course, China also, the security issues there. Partly it is externally sponsored, partly it's also our failure to fashion an effective counter-terror strategy. So I think that's very important. And at home, a healing touch, a more inclusive approach. Because Pakistan, warts and all, despite difficulties, we are still the most vibrant Muslim democracy. We are a product of democracy under the leadership of the Quaid-e-Azam. So we should be proud of our heritage. And Pakistan has, the people of Pakistan, the society of Pakistan is strong. The state of Pakistan is soft.
So, what does the Pakistani nation offer to the world in the changing world order?
We offer 250 million people, a strong middle class, some of the most talented boys and girls who are highly educated, who are conversant with technology and the English language, and who are globalists basically. Pakistanis is the biggest globalist. 10 million Pakistanis live outside Pakistan. So they are willing to engage. A huge market. Then our location and our role. We are the hub between the most strategic real estate in the world. South Asia, China, Central Asia, Southwest Asia, Iran, Afghanistan, and the Gulf. This is a huge, amazing location. And we have one of the unique countries that can also have a good engagement with the West and a very close rapport with the East. So for us, it's not either or. We can mix our drinks. We can carry people together because this is what we have done and this is a unique role of Pakistan. So we have to play that role as I would say 4 Muslim middle powers will decide the next 10 years. Pakistan, Iran, Saudi Arabia and Turkey because of the strategic space and the decline of the Western order. These Muslim middle powers have a role in their respective regions. And I think their role should be geo-economic. Open your borders, have good relations with your neighbors, take bold, principled positions, and reverse the wrongs of the past and do a course correction. Don't repeat old mistakes. You have to make mistakes, make new ones.
Senator Saab, thank you so much for sharing your very candid, bold, and original perspective and sharing your insight into the changing world order, what it means for us, what are the challenges, but more importantly, what can we do to benefit from this.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Thank you.